It's a great honor for me to be given a few moments to address the issue of climate change in this national campaign. As many of you will know, my background is as a climate scientist, working in this field since the late 1980s, and I've watched successive governments come and go, put plans forward, but never before have I seen a more comprehensive science-based plan than we actually have in this election with the federal Liberal climate plan. You know, it's really important for those of us who've worked in this field to not only say what we dislike, but also what we like. And for the first time in many, many, many years, in fact, in my career, have I seen a costed platform that actually is doable and will meet our targets, that's based in evidence, scientific evidence, as opposed to ideology. Now, I ran in British Columbia to bring climate policy back to the discourse in BC. And as many of you will know, I ended up being leader of the BC Green Party, and we worked very closely with John Horgan and his government here to develop Clean BC. I left politics a little over a year ago, feeling that my work there had been done. Little did I know that more than just over a year later, the federal government would take what we had done in BC to a whole new level. This national plan, with its pricing mechanisms, with its banning on thermal coal exports, with its movement towards methane reductions, with its emphasis on zero-emitting vehicles, with its recognition of the synergy between a strong, prosperous economy and a healthy, clean planet, this is the plan that I've been dreaming of for most of my life. And with that, I want to thank the Prime Minister, the Minister, for their efforts in this regard. And with no further ado, please let me welcome Prime Minister Trudeau.
Thank you, Andrew. It is great to be here in BC this morning, here in Richmond, with such an amazing slate of candidates, Carla, Parm, Wilson, Joyce, and Jonathan, but extraordinarily great to be able to stand beside one of Canada's preeminent, indeed the world's preeminent climate scientists and climate policy thinkers. This election really matters. This moment really matters. But even as I'm in this moment and thinking about this election, I can't help but think back to all the times I spent here at Steveston Wharf with my Aunt Janet, who lived just a few blocks away, talking to fishermen and getting fish and chips. I can't help but think of the times I spent mountain biking up at Chickamus Trail, or paddling with the kids from Pitt River Middle on a canoe trip through the Fraser Valley, or hiking, or skiing and snowboarding, or spending time on beautiful Vancouver Island with my kids over the past many summers. British Columbians get the importance of protecting this extraordinarily rich and diverse environment. We understand how necessary it is to cherish it, to celebrate it, and to do the things necessary to make sure that future generations can both thrive and enjoy everything that we only sometimes take for granted, because it's hard to take for granted this extraordinary place. And that deeply has informed not just my role right now as Prime Minister, but why I got into politics in the first place. When I chose to make the leap into politics, I was busy studying environmental geography at McGill University. I was focused on the things that we need to do. And the thing that is absolutely clear is that science and experts tell us, even with everything Canada has done, even with everything the world is doing, we need to do more. On a fait énormément. On a mis un prix sur la pollution à travers le pays et on s'est battu contre les politiciens conservateurs jusqu'à la Cour suprême qui voulait l'enlever. On a protégé plus de nos terres et de nos océans que n'importe quel gouvernement dans le passé. Et on continue de travailler, de bannir les plastiques à usage unique, les plastiques nocifs pour l'environnement, et bien d'autres choses. We've done a lot over these past 6 years, including putting a broad-based price on pollution right across the country and successfully fighting off the Conservative premiers who took us to the Supreme Court of Canada to try and get to reverse it. But what Andrew has dedicated his life to is making sure that people step up even more with concrete plans, with real tools, and with even more ambition to fight climate change. So it is really moving for me and for us that you would step forward today and over these past weeks to say out loud what I certainly believe and to confirm what Jonathan and Joyce and Carla and everyone on our team has been working on so hard. That now is the time to step up even harder and even further on the fight against climate change in ways that bring all Canadians along. That's what we need to do. And Andrew's spoken clearly on that. Other experts across the country, including Mark Jacquard, one of Canada's top climate economists here at SFU, pointing out that we have the strongest plan, and also pointing out that the NDP didn't do the work to put forward a real plan to fight climate change. So that's what's at stake in this election. Do we continue and move forward even faster and harder in the fight against climate change? Or do we let Erin O'Toole take us back? Because we know the Conservatives on climate. We lived through 10 years of cities, of provinces, pushing hard to do more on climate change with a federal government that didn't just not do much, but dragged their heels and interfered with other people's ability to do more on fighting climate change. A Conservative government under Stephen Harper that didn't understand that the only way to build a strong economy with good jobs is to fight climate change at the same time. And Mr. O'Toole and this newest version of the Conservative Party, they want to go exactly back to Stephen Harper's targets and Stephen Harper's approaches on the environment. Erin O'Toole wants to bring back the Northern Gateway Pipeline through the Great Bear Rainforest, reverse the oil tanker traffic ban on the North Coast that we brought in. That's the wrong choice for British Columbians. That's the wrong choice for Canadians. Our plan will put a cap on oil and gas sector emissions and reduce them. Our plan will continue to ban single-use plastics. Our plan will build on the fact that we went in 5 years from 1% of our coasts and oceans protected to 14%, on our way to 30%. These are the things we need to do. So despite what Jagmeet Singh and the NDP say, it does make a difference whether or not there's a Conservative or a Liberal government. And unfortunately, the NDP not only is not leading on that choice, but they didn't step up on the fight against climate change. Anyone who knows that climate change is real and that we have to listen to science and experts will have a hard time understanding why the NDP didn't bother to put forward a real plan. And that's part of the choice we have to face right now in this election. Because Mr. O'Toole is laying out a vision of this country that would take us back. Back on the fight against climate change, which would take us back on the economy. back to a time when assault weapons were legal in our communities, back to a time where provinces like BC didn't have a clear path towards $10 a day childcare for families and for economic growth. That's not what British Columbians want. That's not what British Columbians need. We need to move forward. And the way to move forward is to be unequivocal on ending this pandemic. And Aaron O'Toole can't even lead on vaccines. He can't get his candidates vaccinated. He can't explain why he thinks it's okay for non-fully vaccinated candidates to be going to seniors' homes. He thinks Jason Kenney is the model to follow on fighting COVID. Well, we saw this morning the approach in Alberta hasn't worked for Albertans. Is hurting the Albertan economy and hurting the people who did the right thing in Alberta and did get vaccinated, because they're looking at more lockdowns, more restrictions. And people think that it'd be a good idea to have Aaron O'Toole sitting across from Jason Kenney when it comes to finishing this pandemic. That'd be bad, not just for Albertans, but for everyone in the country. Alberta's chief medical officer just pointed out that BC is leading the way with vaccine passports, and young people are getting vaccinated at higher rates here because we've said you don't get back to the things you like to do unless you do your part for the community and get vaccinated. C'est ce dont on a besoin. Du leadership clair sur la vaccination, sur l'économie, sur les garderies, sur les armes à feu et surtout aujourd'hui sur l'environnement. Avec un vrai plan, ancré dans la science, applaudi par les experts, qui va continuer de livrer contre les changements climatiques. C'est exactement ce que nous allons faire. C'est exactement ce pourquoi nous sommes là. I think in my conversations with progressives, not just in this election, but over the years, there's always three things that come forward when I talk to someone who's not sure which way to vote, but they know they care about climate change. Voters who care about climate change try to juggle three different things in their choice for who to vote for. First of all, they know they have to stop the Conservatives from getting elected and taking us backwards at a time we need to go even further forward. They know they should be voting for the very best and most ambitious plan to fight climate change. And they know they need to be getting a government that is pushing hard and pushed hard to fight climate change even more and even further. Well, in this election, all three of those things are fulfilled by the Liberal Party of Canada. We are the ones that can stop the Conservatives from getting elected and taking us back on climate. We are the ones with the very best plan laid out by experts and scientists across the country and around the world. And we are the ones with a government filled with people who know we need to go harder and faster and even more ambitious on fighting climate change. That's the choice Canadians are facing in this election, and that's why we're going to move forward for everyone. Merci tout le monde.
Thank you, Mr. Trudeau. We'll now start question period for 20 minutes, starting with Kevin Gallagher from CTV National News.
Good morning, Prime Minister. As you heard from your staffer there, we have a time limit, so could you please be brief with your responses? You've said the past few days that the Conservatives would resurrect the Northern Gateway pipeline. I've asked the Conservatives, and they said that's not true. Where did you get the information to make that claim and assertion?
Aaron O'Toole said it directly, that was part of his plan to bring back the Northern Gateway pipeline. It doesn't surprise me that now he's trying to say something else. We know he said to the gun lobby he was going to bring back assault weapons. And now he's trying to tell Canadians, oh no, he didn't actually mean it. He's only going to work with them on a review to see which assault weapons he should bring back. We know he now says he's in favor of public health care, but he told groups of conservatives that no, he thinks there should be more private for-profit health care. These are the things that we're seeing from Erin O'Toole. He's not leading, he's misleading. We need to stand strongly on a plan to fight climate change and grow the economy and stop the Conservatives from bringing us backwards.
Prochaine question.
Bonjour, M. Trudeau. Catherine Lévesque, La Presse canadienne. Je voulais vous faire réagir au sondage léger de ce matin. Le Bloc québécois qui est en hausse d'1 point là, en une semaine et pas de 3 points comme ça a été rapporté. Mais quand même, on voit qu'il y a quand même une certaine tendance à la hausse pour le Bloc québécois. De plus en plus de personnes disent, lors des votes par anticipation, qu'ils ont voté pour le Bloc, qu'ils étaient très fâchés par le débat en anglais. Donc, est-ce que ça, justement, ce momentum, ça fait craindre justement de faire perdre des sièges libéraux au Québec?
Ben, on sait très bien que la menace pour les Québécois, pour les Canadiens, est réelle, qu'un gouvernement conservateur décide de nous amener en arrière sur le climat, sur les armes à feu, sur les garderies, sur la santé. Et on se souvient très bien que le Bloc québécois, sous M. Harper, ne pouvait pas empêcher M. Harper de s'attaquer à la culture, de s'attaquer aux Français, de rien faire pour le climat, d'assouplir le contrôle des armes à feu. Si les Québécois sont préoccupés, comme je sais qu'ils le sont, par M. O'Toole puis son plan de nous ramener en arrière, c'est pas le Bloc qui peut empêcher un gouvernement conservateur. On a besoin que les Québécois progressistes choisissent un gouvernement progressiste, plein de Québécois prêts à lutter pour leurs priorités à tous les jours, et c'est ce que nous sommes.
Next question.
Good morning, Morgan Lowry, Canadian Press. Your government has said COVID-19 has caused further delays and backlogs in processing immigration and citizenship applications. I'd like to know what a re-elected Liberal government would do to end that backlog. And I'm also wondering why your government hasn't already ended citizenship application fees, which you promised to end in 2019 and are once again promising.
Obviously, COVID has disrupted many things over this past year as we focused entirely on getting Canadians through this, with the CERB, with the wage subsidy, with historic supports, things that had never been done before to make sure that we could get through. And we completely suspended immigration because we closed our borders. These are things that we had to do. But yes, we have much to do to make up for lost time in increasing our immigration levels, ensuring that things move even quicker, making it cheaper for people to become citizens because we need them to be contributing fully to this country. We are the party that has always done that, and we will continue to do that.
Question.
Good morning, Mr. Trudeau. Christy Kirkup with the Globe and Mail. Did you get the approval of the federal ethics commissioner before your memoirs were published in China, given you were seeking a free trade deal and extradition treaty at the same time?
The Globe and Mail knows full well that all the handling of the international editions of my book was done entirely by the publisher, and the Globe and Mail knows full well as well that all of the profits from that book go to the Canadian Red Cross. I don't see a single penny, and I have nothing to do with where it gets translated or sold.
So yes or no to the ethics commissioner clearance?
The ethics commissioner has cleared all my sources of income many times.
Prochaine question.
Bonjour, M. Trudeau. Louis Blouin de Radio-Canada. Le chef conservateur a envoyé une lettre ce matin au premier ministre Legault pour lui dire qu'il y aurait du financement pour compenser le Québec sur la question des garderies. Il y a ce fonds de 9,7 milliards pour de la stabilisation pour les provinces, mais aussi pour des ententes avec les provinces. Alors, pouvez-vous vraiment dire que M. O'Toole n'offre rien au Québec sur la question des garderies?
M. O'Toole offre un retour en arrière sur les changements climatiques, sur les armes à feu, sur la santé, mais aussi sur les garderies. Depuis des semaines et des mois maintenant, il dit qu'il va annuler nos accords sur les garderies. Il ne va pas créer d'espace. Et c'est dans sa plateforme qu'il ne va pas honorer les 6 milliards de dollars que nous envoyons sans condition au Québec pour les familles, avec lesquelles M. Legault a dit qu'il allait créer 37 000 places pour les familles qui ont besoin de places en garderie. M. O'Toole est en train de faire les mauvais choix et maintenant, il est en train d'essayer de modifier sa plateforme encore une fois parce qu'on l'a pris, lutter pour des choses qui ne sont pas les priorités des Canadiens et des Québécois. Il n'est pas là pour défendre nos valeurs, il n'est pas là pour lutter pour nos priorités. Le choix pour les Québécois et pour tous les Canadiens est très clair.
Next question.
Hi, Mr. Trudeau. Ashley Burke, CBC News. You lost your patience yesterday with a demonstrator. How does that show leadership and your ability to unite the country?
I think Canadians know that I have pretty thick skin, and I am able to take all sorts of different abuse, especially if it means that someone is not somewhere else hassling frontline health workers or vulnerable Canadians. But he went after my family. He said hateful, misogynistic things about my wife. Je pense que les Canadiens savent très bien que moi, là, ça me dérange pas trop quand les gens me lancent des insultes, quand ils m'attaquent personnellement. Ça fait partie de ma job. Je préférerais qu'ils viennent m'attaquer que de s'en prendre à des infirmières vulnérables ou des médecins qui vont aider les gens. Mais cet individu-là a attaqué de façon personnelle et dégueulasse ma femme.
Next question.
Hi, Mr. Trudeau. Tom Perry with CBC. You say you've got thick skin, but you did shout at a protester. You got a little snippy with an interviewer as well. And I'm wondering, are you feeling the pressure of this campaign? Is it getting to you?
I think this campaign and this choice that Canadians are going to make is unbelievably important. And for me, the ability to present that choice in as clear a way, but also in as positive a way as possible, is important. Because this matters. The visions being put forward for this country by the various parties are very, very different. Whether it's on how we end with COVID, how we support families, or as we're talking about today, how we fight climate change. We know as Canadians, we have to listen to the experts on climate science. We have to listen to the experts on how to be even more ambitious on climate change. And the experts are saying the only way to do that is to vote for the Liberal Party plan. That's what I am passionate about putting forward. That's what I'm excited about doing with Canadians, not just in the coming days, but in the coming years.
Abigail Beeman, Global News. On August 31st, Marc Garneau said that there were about 1,200 Canadians or people with ties to Canada still in Afghanistan. Yesterday, you told Global News that your government got all Canadians out of Afghanistan. Is that true?
I was referring to the diplomatic and consular staff directly. We know there are still many Canadians in Afghanistan, and we worked with our allies to get them out over the air bridge in August. We're working with our allies and partners like the Qataris to get them out on flights from Kabul. And we're even working with neighboring partners like Pakistan to be able to get Canadians out of Afghanistan as well. We will keep working until not only all Canadians are out of Afghanistan, but also Canada welcomes 40,000 Afghan refugees coming not just to build a better life for themselves, but contributing to build a better life for all Canadians.
Can you provide any specifics about how many Canadians remain and any specifics about next flight plans?
for those next flight plans, which we're working nonstop on, I'm sure our ministers will be able to answer that question, and we'll make sure we follow up with you on those details.
Next question.
Good morning, Mr. Trudeau. Steve Shear with Reuters. You mentioned Alberta this morning, and Jason Kenney. They're canceling elective surgeries because hospitals are overloaded. Saskatchewan is seeing a spike in cases. They don't even have a mask mandate in Saskatchewan right now, and neither province supports vaccine passports. So my question is, do you have any advice for Premiers Moe and Kenney right now on COVID? And if you were elected, how do you propose to work with them on COVID if they oppose vaccine passports and mandates?
This fourth wave is a wave primarily of people who chose not to get vaccinated. In Alberta, in Saskatchewan, millions of people have done the right thing and gotten vaccinated. And we know that bringing in clear mandates like you can't get on a plane or a train without getting vaccinated. If you want to work for the public service, federal public service, you have to be vaccinated. Or working with provinces on things like vaccine certification and passports causes people who were hesitant to choose to finally get vaccinated. And getting vaccinated is the way through this. And I feel bad, really bad, for those people in Alberta and Saskatchewan who've stepped up to do the right thing. Yes, it's a lower number than elsewhere in the country as a proportion, but it's still a majority of Albertans and Saskatchewans who've gotten vaccinated. And because of leadership that will not commit to keeping them safe in the right way, or even protecting the economy the right way, they're facing greater risks because of canceled surgeries. They're facing emergency public health restrictions that may have to be brought in. We are going to make it easier for those provinces to move forward with vaccine certification and encourage people to get vaccinated because we will foot the bill for that. And I don't think any Albertan or Saskatchewanian looking at this election could possibly think that Aaron O'Toole, who can't even get his own candidates to get vaccinated, would do any better for them than their current premiers are sitting across the table from Jason Kenney or Scott Moe.
National Post. The Conservative Party has sent flyers into at least one Toronto riding saying that you have made it clear that you intend to impose a home tax. Your anti-flipping tax requires homeowners to live in their home for a year. What's to stop you, if re-elected, just removing that qualification and imposing a home equity tax?
Because I have repeatedly said that what the Conservative Party is telling people is a lie. We are going to be there to help people buy a home by cracking down on unfair practices and ensuring that people who are flipping homes don't get the same kinds of fiscal advantages as someone who is selling their home after many years of living in it. Now, the Conservatives can sort of say, oh, you know, what if he changes his mind? We're not going to. Every step of the way, we've been there to fight for the middle class and people working hard to join it. First thing we did was raise taxes on the wealthiest 1% so we could lower them for the middle class. We stepped up with the Canada Child Benefit, which sent more money to the families that need it, hundreds of dollars to wealthy landlords to help them sell their buildings. That doesn't get a family into a new home. That doesn't help people save, and it doesn't crack down on predatory practices like blind bidding or aggressive house flipping or foreign investors, which we're all going to be cracking down on. Again, the Conservative Party is engaged in misleading Canadians every step of the way, where we have a plan and the track record to show that we're there to fight for them every step of the way.
Prochaine question.
M. Trudeau, ce matin, vous avez fait plusieurs appels au vote stratégique pour bloquer les conservateurs. Est-ce que vous vous sentez menacé à ce point pour utiliser cette tactique-là? On sent un petit changement dans le discours.
Au contraire, ça fait plusieurs semaines que je déplore que dans cette élection, le NPD a choisi de ne pas montrer de leadership en matière de changement climatique. N'a pas mis de l'avant un plan basé sur la science, et c'est pas juste moi qui le dis, c'est les experts. Comme l'ancien chef du Parti vert, Andrew Weaver, ici en Colombie-Britannique, qui est aussi climatologue renommé. Les experts en économie et changement climatique comme Marc Jacquard ont démontré que nous avons le seul plan concret qui va lutter de façon ambitieuse contre les changements climatiques. Et le NPD, il leur a donné un échec. C'est extrêmement important qu'on soit plus ambitieux dans la lutte contre les changements climatiques. C'est extrêmement important qu'on écoute les experts et les scientifiques dans la lutte contre les changements climatiques. C'est extrêmement important qu'on élise un gouvernement qui va en faire encore plus et pas un gouvernement conservateur qui veut nous ramener aux stratégies et aux cibles de M. Harper.
Next question.
That comment by the demonstrator yesterday was an offensive, derogatory slur. But as Prime Minister, should you have shown some more restraint? And also, was it appropriate to say in particular that isn't there a hospital that he should go bother? In light of the announcement yesterday, do you regret that, specifically saying that?
I signed up for this. My family believes deeply in what I'm doing and put up with an awful lot. But everyone has limits. And I will always be there to try and push back when someone crosses those lines.
Next question.
Hello. The BC Assembly of First Nations said that they sent out an invite to all three of the main federal party leaders to address the chiefs this week at a two-day meeting, and they say that the lack of response makes them question the leaders' true commitment to reconciliation. So given that your government has made reconciliation such a priority, why didn't you meet with them?
I was happy to ensure that we have one of our extraordinary Indigenous candidates going to meet with them to share our commitment to reconciliation. Not only have we demonstrated with real results and real partnerships our commitment to reconciliation over the past years, we've seen a record number, I think around 25 Indigenous candidates across this country step up to be part of this path forward. And Indigenous peoples are facing a really important choice in this election, like all Canadians. They need to make sure we continue to move forward on the work that we've done. Just this week, we'll be lifting 7 more long-term boil water advisories in Shoal Lake, which is ironically the place that Winnipeg gets its drinking water from. But Indigenous people who've lived on that land for generations and millennia can't drink the water. We're fixing that, and we're continuing to step up in every different area to fight for a better future, better opportunities, and proper reconciliation with Indigenous peoples in this country.
We'll take one last question.
I just want to ask you a question about this neighborhood here, Stevenson. Well, once a working class neighborhood, thriving fishery. Listing price in a condo here, 2 bedrooms, almost $900,000. What's your housing plan going to do for someone, being priced out of a neighborhood like this in the lower mainland?
Our housing plan is focused on 3 things, because we know there's no one thing that's going to fix this housing crisis. And we have done many things over the past years within our national housing strategy, but we know we need to do more. So the first thing we're going to do is help families, particularly young families, save up more and faster for a down payment. We're going to give them supports worth up to $30,000, including a $40,000 tax-free ability to be able to get to that down payment faster. But we also need to increase supply. That's why we're going to be working with municipalities to accelerate the building and renovation of new homes with $4 billion that'll create 1.4 million new units of housing for Canadians. And at the same time, we're going to crack down on those predatory practices that are causing so much heartache and anguish for people trying to buy their first home or trying to get into the market. We're going to ban those practices like blind bidding. We're going to stop foreign investors from parking their money here in empty units. We're going to make sure that we're supporting people with a home buyer's bill of rights. These are the things that will make a difference here in the Lower Mainland and indeed right across the country.
Thank you. This is what concludes today's press conference.
Merci tout le monde.